The internet is flooded with wealth gurus telling you that renting is a financial hack that saves you money. They are wrong, and it's costing you millions. Let's look at the raw forensic numbers. When you rent, your unrecoverable cost is exactly 100%. Every single centavo is evaporated, directly funding your landlord's next asset purchase. Yes, buying has friction costs. Amilyar sits around 0.25%, and maintenance averages 1%. But a mortgage operates as a psychological mechanism of forced savings. You are moving cash from your left pocket to your right pocket as home equity. Look at the 15-year horizon here in southern Metro Manila subdivisions. A renter will bleed over 8 million pesos into a flatline asset column. A buyer converts that exact same period into a fully paid, inflation-protected asset worth over 16 million pesos. Want to accelerate it? Don't buy overpriced perfection. Find a dated property with great structural bones, execute a strategic cosmetic flip, and engineer instant equity on day one. Stop letting social media trends dictate your net worth. Run the forensic math. If you're ready to deploy your capital into real equity in the South, let's talk. Understand the numbers, secure the asset. Watch this video now. Imagine waking up on a Saturday morning, walking down to your favorite coffee shop near Alabang Town Center, and getting a text message from your landlord. Good morning! Just a heads up, your lease is renewing next month, and due to inflation and market demand, your rent is going up by 15%. Your stomach drops. You realize that the extra hard work you put in over the last year, the late nights, the corporate bonuses, the side hustles, isn't going into your bank account. It's going straight into funding your landlord's next family vacation to Tokyo or Boracay. Look, I know how it feels. You look at your savings account, you look at the skyrocketing property prices along the southern Metro Manila corridor, and you think, man, the upfront costs are just too heavy. Maybe I'm just safer renting forever. Here's the thing. I'm going to prove to you today that buying a home is smarter than renting in the long run, and I am starting today. When it comes to making a decision about where to live, people often find themselves torn between buying and renting. The idea of buying a home can seem daunting, especially with all the upfront costs. But I'm here to tell you that, despite those initial expenses, buying a home is generally a smarter long-term financial decision than renting. If you've been sitting on the fence, terrified of the math, I need you to stick with me for the next few minutes. We are going to strip away the emotional noise and look at the raw, forensic numbers. My name is Remy from Rem Club, and I educate the average Joe, real people, just like you, the intricacies of real estate in southern Metro Manila. If you're someone who is looking to learn more about real estate, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, we live in a world filled with bad financial advice. If you open TikTok or scroll through Facebook Reels, you'll see thousands of self-proclaimed wealth gurus telling you that renting is actually a hack because you don't have to pay for repairs, or that buying a house is a liability, not an asset. Every time I see those videos, I get deeply frustrated. Why? Because they are giving you a generic, cookie-cutter Western perspective that completely collapses when you apply it to the reality of the Philippine macroeconomic landscape, specifically here in the South, from the premium enclaves of Ayala Alabang and Alabang Hills to the high-density residential corridors of BF Homes Parañaque, Las Piñas, and Portofino Heights. Today, we are going to break down the total cost of capital. We are going to look at the psychological mechanics of why a mortgage acts as a mandatory wealth builder, and I'm going to give you an actionable blueprint on how you can leverage what I call a cosmetic flip to engineer instant equity the moment you hold the title. This isn't abstract theory. This is 30 years of real estate experience talking. Let's get to work. Let's look at the problem directly. Why do most real people choose to rent instead of buy? It's not because they don't want to own a piece of land. It's because the initial entry barriers look terrifying on paper. Now, you might be thinking,
Remy, if I want to buy a decent 3-bedroom townhouse in a secure subdivision in BF Homes Las Piñas or near Tahanan Village, it's going to cost me at least 8 million pesos. A 20% down payment means I need 1,600,000 pesos in cold hard cash. Plus, I have to deal with closing costs, documentary stamp taxes, transfer fees, registration fees, and bank processing charges, which add another 3 to 5%. And on top of that, if the roof leaks or the plumbing bursts, that's completely on my dime. If I rent, I just pay my 40,000 pesos a month, call the landlord when something breaks, and sleep like a baby.
here's what most people don't realize. That peace of mind you think you're buying by renting is a financial illusion. It is a slow, compounding bleed of your net worth. Let's unmask the real costs. When you rent, your unrecoverable cost is exactly 100% of your money. Every single centavo of that 40,000 pesos monthly rent is gone forever. It goes straight into the landlord's asset column, helping them build equity, helping them secure bank leverage, and protecting them against inflation. Think about it this way, using a simple analogy. Renting a house is exactly like renting a car from a car rental service every single day for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, you've paid millions of pesos to the rental company. You've kept the car clean, you've put gasoline in it, you've driven it carefully through traffic. But when the lease is up, you hand over the keys and you walk away with absolutely zero wheels. You are back to square one, standing on the sidewalk, waiting for a jeepney or an upscale rideshare, while the car owner sells that asset or keeps renting it out at a higher rate. Let's talk about the real metrics of renting in southern Metro Manila. Historically, across the Las Piñas and Muntinlupa residential corridors, rent does not stay flat. Landlords typically bake a 5% to 10% rent escalator clause into your contract every single year or two. So that 40,000 pesos rent you're paying today? In 5 years, at an average 8% annual escalation, it becomes nearly 59,000 pesos a month. In 10 years, it leaps to over 86,000 pesos a month. You are running on a treadmill that keeps accelerating. And the moment you stop running, the moment you retire or face an economic downturn, you have no roof over your head. To understand why buying beats renting, we have to look at the unrecoverable costs of homeownership too. Because I want to be entirely fair and transparent with you. I am an analyst. I don't deal in emotional hype. Homeownership does have unrecoverable costs. Let's map them out so we can make a true forensic comparison. Borrowing an economic framework popularized by global portfolio managers and adjusting it specifically for the Philippine market, there are 3 primary unrecoverable costs when you buy property. The real property tax. Amilyar. In Metro Manila, the official statutory RPT rate is 2% of the assessed value of the property for residential structures and land. Now, keep in mind, the assessed value determined by the city assessor's office is always significantly lower than the actual market value, often by 40% to 60%. So if you buy an 8 million peso market value property, your annual Amilyar isn't 2% of 8 million. It usually averages around 0.2% to 0.3% of the actual market value. Let's be conservative and peg it at 0.25% per year, which translates to roughly 20,000 pesos annually. Maintenance costs. A house is exposed to the elements. Here in the Philippines, we deal with intense tropical heat, heavy monsoon seasons, and structural wear and tear. A realistic benchmark for residential maintenance is setting aside 1% of the property value per year for upkeep, painting, and minor repairs. For our 8 million peso home, That's 80,000 pesos a year. The cost of capital, opportunity cost, plus cost of debt. This is where it gets really interesting. This is the concept that most average homebuyers completely overlook. When you take 1,600,000 pesos out of your bank account to pay that 20% down payment, that money is no longer earning a return elsewhere. That is your opportunity cost. If you left that 1,600,000 pesos in a high-yield digital bank account or a diversified mutual fund in the Philippines, it might conservatively earn around 4% to 5% after taxes. At the same time, you are financing the remaining 80%, which is 6,400,000 pesos, through a bank mortgage. Current long-term home loan rates in the Philippines generally float between 7% and 8.5%, depending on your bank and your fixing period. Let's lock in a standard 7.5% annual interest rate for our calculation. Look, when you add up these friction costs, the Amilyar, 0.25%, the maintenance, 1%, and the blended cost of your capital and debt, you get a total annual unrecoverable cost of ownership that hovers right around 6% to 7% of the property's total value. Let's do the fast math on our 8 million peso townhouse. 7% of 8 million pesos is 560,000 pesos a year. If we divide that by 12 months, your true unrecoverable cost of owning that home is roughly 46,666 pesos per month. Now look at those two numbers side by side. Your unrecoverable cost to rent a comparable place is 40,000 pesos a month and growing every single year. Your unrecoverable cost to own is 46,666 pesos a month. At first glance, a superficial observer would say, "See, Remy? Renting is cheaper by over 6,000 pesos a month. I'll just rent and save the difference." Here's the flaw in that logic, and this is where the psychology of human behavior crashes headfirst into mainstream financial theories. The assumption that a renter will perfectly, consistently, and flawlessly take that 6,666 pesos difference, plus the 1,600,000 pesos down payment they saved, and invest it perfectly every single month into a productive asset without ever touching it? It's a myth. It almost never happens in the real world. Why? Because humans are fundamentally irrational and prone to lifestyle creep. When that cash sits in a regular bank account, it feels like disposable wealth. It gets spent on a newer SUV to drive down the skyway, premium coffee splurges, family vacations, or the latest tech upgrades. A bank mortgage, on the other hand, operates as a psychological mechanism of forced savings. When you pay your monthly mortgage amortization of roughly 51,535 pesos to the bank, you aren't just throwing money away. A significant portion of that payment goes directly toward reducing the principal balance of your loan. Every single month you make that payment, you are buying back a piece of your house from the bank. You are moving money from your left pocket, cash, into your right pocket, home equity. You are building real, tangible net worth. The Climax, the 15-year forensic math model. Let's stop talking in abstract terms and run a rigorous 15-year forensic head-to-head model. We are going to track two individuals, Joe the renter and Pete the buyer. Both live in the southern Metro Manila corridor, starting right now in 2026. Scenario A, Joe the renter. Joe finds a beautiful townhouse in a secure area near Alabang West. The landlord charges him 40,000 pesos a month. Joe has 1,600,000 pesos sitting in his bank account that he decides not to use for a down payment, keeping it invested in a conservative fund earning 5% net per year. The landlord enforces a very standard 5% rent increase every 2 years. In year one, Joe pays 480,000 pesos in rent. His investment fund grows to 1,680,000 pesos. By year 5, Due to the escalator clauses, Joe's rent has climbed to 44,100 pesos a month. He has thrown away a cumulative total of 2,520,000 pesos in unrecoverable rent payments over those 5 years. By year 10, Joe's rent is now 48,620 pesos a month. His cumulative rent paid has crossed the 5,200,000 pesos mark. By year 15, Joe is paying over 53,600 pesos every single month. Over 15 years, Joe has handed exactly 8,140,000 pesos to his landlord. That money is evaporated. It is completely gone. Yes, his initial 1,600,000 peso investment fund has grown compounded to about 3,325,000 pesos. But let's look at his net position. Joe has 3.3 million pesos in paper assets, but he is completely exposed to the rental market, paying over 500,000 pesos a year in rent, with zero real estate assets to his name. Scenario B, Pete the buyer. Now let's look at Pete. Pete takes that exact same 1,600,000 pesos and deploys it as a 20% down payment on a neighboring townhouse priced at 8 million pesos. He secures a 15-year fixed bank mortgage for the remaining 6,400,000 pesos at an annual interest rate of 7.5%. His fixed monthly mortgage amortization comes out to exactly 59,320 pesos. Yes, Pete is paying more out of pocket each month in the early years compared to Joe. Pete also pays his annual Amilyar and handles maintenance. But let's look at what happens behind the scenes inside the amortization schedule and the local property market. This is where it gets really interesting. Southern Metro Manila real estate is highly finite. Land in Muntinlupa, Las Piñas, and Parañaque is fully developed. They aren't making any more of it. Historically, even with economic cycles, residential property values in well-maintained southern subdivisions appreciate at an average conservative rate of 5% compounded annually. Let's watch how the financial scales tip drastically over the 15-year horizon. Year 1, Pete's house appreciates from 8 million pesos to 8,400,000 pesos. His principal loan balance drops slightly. Year 5, Pete's house is now market valued at 10,210,000 pesos. Meanwhile, because his mortgage is fixed, his monthly payment hasn't increased by a single centavo. It is still exactly 59,320 pesos. Joe's rent is catching up rapidly. Over these 5 years, a massive portion of Pete's payments has gone directly into principal reduction. His remaining loan balance is down to around 4.9 million pesos. Pete's net equity asset value is now 5.31 million pesos. Year 10. This is the tipping point. Pete's townhouse is now worth 13,030,000 pesos due to compounding organic appreciation. His remaining bank loan has dropped to just 2.7 million pesos. Pete's net equity in the property has ballooned to 10.33 million pesos. Meanwhile, Joe, the renter, is getting squeezed by rising rent and has absolutely zero property equity. Year 15, the final year of the mortgage. Pete makes his very last payment to the bank. The bank releases the chattel mortgage, hands him the clean transfer certificate of title, TCT, and his monthly housing expense drops to absolutely zero, except for basic maintenance and minor property taxes. Let's look at the final forensic scorecard at year 15. Pete owns a prime piece of southern Metro Manila real estate that is now fully paid off and conservatively worth 16,630,000 pesos. His total remaining debt is zero. His net worth from this single decision is 16.63 million pesos. Joe, on the other hand, has his investment fund worth 3.32 million pesos. but he has spent over 8.14 million pesos in rent. His net position is deeply negative compared to Pete. And worst of all, Joe still has to pay 53,600 pesos a month just to keep a roof over his head, while Pete lives virtually rent-free in a high-value asset that he can pass down to his children, borrow against to fund a business venture, or sell to retire in luxury.
But wait, look. I know what you're thinking right now.
Remy, 15 years is a long time to wait to see the massive benefits of buying. Is there any way to accelerate this wealth building right from day one? Yes, there is. And this is the strategy that separates the amateur home buyer from the sophisticated real estate operator. This is what the mainstream financial gurus completely fail to factor into their calculations. They view buying a home as a static financial transaction. They assume you buy a brand new, perfectly polished, overpriced property directly from a mega developer. Here's what most people don't realize. You can engineer instant, massive equity on the very day you close your loan by executing a strategic cosmetic flip. Instead of buying a brand new townhouse with a premium price tag from a developer, you use a forensic search strategy. You look into older, established, highly secure subdivisions in BF Homes, Alabang Hills, or mature neighborhoods in Las Piñas. You look for properties that have what I call great bones, but terrible aesthetic appeal. I'm talking about houses built in the late 1990s or early 2000s that are being sold by motivated sellers. The structural foundations are solid, reinforced concrete, but the property looks dated. The paint is peeling, the kitchen cabinets are old wood laminate, the tiles are an unfashionable color, and the lighting is harsh and institutional. Because of these purely cosmetic flaws, the average untrained buyer looks at the property and walks away. The property sits on the market for months, and the price drops. Let's say you find one of these older townhouses priced at 7 million pesos, while brand new townhouses of the exact same square meter size down the street are selling for 9 million pesos. You purchase that dated property for 7 million pesos. You put down your 20%, which is 1,400,000 pesos, and you take out a bank loan for 5,600,000 pesos. The moment you get the keys, you do not move in yet. Instead, you allocate a modest cosmetic renovation budget of roughly 600,000 pesos in cash. You do not touch the structural walls. You do not touch the plumbing lines or the main electrical panels. That's too expensive and time-consuming. You focus exclusively on high ROI, high-visibility cosmetic enhancements. You scrape down the old walls and apply a premium, modern, cohesive paint palette. Soft off-whites, neutral grays, and warm tones that instantly open up the space. You rip out the old kitchen cabinet doors and replace them with modern, minimalist matte slabs with hidden handles. You install a clean quartz countertop. You update the lighting layout. You get rid of old fluorescent fixtures and install warm white LED downlights, track lighting to accent walls, and a statement pendant light over the dining area. You replace dated bathroom fixtures, old faucets, shower heads, and mirrors with sleek, modern black or brushed nickel hardware. Here's the psychology of real estate valuation. Appraisers and future buyers do not judge a home solely on structural volume. They judge it heavily on emotional presentation and modern functionality. By spending 600,000 pesos on targeted cosmetic upgrades, you have completely transformed the visual identity of that home. If you bring a bank appraiser back to the property to reevaluate it, or if you look at comparable market listings in the immediate neighborhood, that townhouse is no longer a 7 million peso dated property. It easily appraises at the current market baseline for modern homes in that area, which is 9 million pesos. Let's look at the forensic math of what you just accomplished in less than 60 days. Your total capital deployed is your 1,400,000 pesos down payment, plus your 600,000 pesos cosmetic renovation budget, totaling 2 million pesos.
Your total bank debt is 5,600,000 pesos.
The new certified market value of your asset is 9 million pesos.
Your immediate net equity position is 9 million pesos minus 5,600,000 pesos, which equals 3,400,000 pesos. Think about that. By executing a cosmetic flip, you have instantly forced 1.4 million pesos of pure wealth into existence on day one. You converted 600,000 pesos of cash into 2 million pesos of immediate property equity. If you were a renter, could you ever find a landlord who would allow you to renovate their property, increase its value, and let you pocket the 3,400,000 pesos in equity upside? Absolutely not. Any value you add to a rented property is a direct donation to your landlord's net worth. Let's summarize what we have established today, because I want you to walk away from this video with a clear, unambiguous roadmap. Renting gives you the psychological illusion of flexibility and low maintenance, but it punishes you over time through relentless rent escalation, compounding inflation exposure, and a total loss of capital. Buying, when done with analytical precision, secures long-term wealth, provides a fixed and predictable cost structure, and serves as an ironclad forced savings vehicle. If you want to step out of the rental trap and build real equity along the southern Metro Manila corridor, here are the 3 clear, actionable steps you can apply immediately. Audit your true, unrecoverable numbers. Stop looking just at the monthly mortgage amortization versus the current monthly rent. Use the calculations I showed you today. Determine the unrecoverable cost of ownership for your target property price point and compare it to the escalating rent of your current lifestyle. If you plan to stay in the southern area for more than 5 to 7 years, the scale tilts overwhelmingly in favor of buying. Build your liquidity core for entry, not perfection. Don't wait until you have the cash to buy a flawless mansion in Ayala, Alabang. Start where you can take a foothold. Look for starter townhouses or older properties in high-demand, stable residential zones like BF Homes Parañaque or secure communities in Las Piñas and Muntinlupa, where the underlying land value is insulated from economic shocks. Target cosmetic value flips. Train your eyes to look past cosmetic ugliness. When you browse listings online or do site viewings with brokers, look for solid concrete structures with outdated interiors. Negotiate hard on the purchase price based on those visual defects. Secure your mortgage and use a disciplined, targeted cosmetic renovation strategy to build immediate forced equity the moment you move in. Look, at the end of the day, real estate isn't just about spreadsheets, interest rates, or construction economics. It's about security. It's about knowing that no matter what happens to the global economy, no matter what happens to inflation, you own a piece of the earth. You have a home where your family can grow, where your roots are planted deeply, and where your hard-earned wealth is completely secure. Don't let the complexity of the process paralyze you. The average Joe can do this. Real people just like you are breaking out of the rent cycle every single day by using their heads, running the numbers, and refusing to fund someone else's financial future. I want to hear from you. Have you been stuck in the renting versus buying dilemma? Are you currently renting in the South and dealing with annual rent increases? Or have you successfully bought your first home and seen the power of equity growth? Share your experiences, your questions, or your thoughts in the comments section down below. I read your feedback and reply to as many as I can. And remember, if you want to master the real estate market, understand the true numbers, and get more practical insights tailored specifically for the Southern Metro Manila corridor, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel reach more people who need to hear this advice. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay disciplined, keep analyzing, and I'll see you in the South. Go to our channel for full-length educational and data-driven videos on Southern Metro Manila real estate. Visit our website for a list of various curated properties in the South.
email us if you would like to buy, sell, or lease properties. Till then, we'll see you in the South.